There's another method of conditioning, and this is a method that you probably know, that if you know anything about me, you'd know that I'm probably known for disliking this method. But this method, and it is just a conditioning method, this is a method where I believe that, and I know for a fact, that when somebody is selling a home, it's a very, very emotional thing. It's not just a financial thing. We talk a lot these days about first home buyers. What's the opposite to a first home buyer? What would the opposite be? And we don't talk about these people very much. I'll tell you the opposite of a first home buyer. It's a last-time seller, somebody who is selling their home for the final time. I believe that when somebody's owned a home for 50 years, they're pretty emotional about that. I believe that somebody should sit down and talk to them. In fact, many cases you can say to them, look, you're probably better off staying in your home if you can get somebody to do the maintenance for you. Maybe the Commonwealth Bank's now got a reverse mortgage thing. Maybe you could spend some of that. Oh, but there won't be anything left to leave to my relatives. Well, so, if you don't enjoy, what's the old saying? If you don't fly first class, your relatives will. Okay, so maybe you should stay there for a little while. But whatever it is, you need somebody to sit down and talk to you nicely. If you're buying your first home, you need somebody that'll sit down and take a little bit of time. But instead, there's a method which they say is increasing in popularity. No, it's increasing in deception and tricks, but there's a method that real estate agents use when people are making that vital decision, and it's a method where they get a man, and they put a hammer in this man's hand, and they get him to yell at people. It's called auction. Can you actually believe? I saw on location the other night, I saw the buyers sitting in the gutter. They're making the biggest financial purchase of their lives, they're actually sitting in the gutter. Yet we put up with it. These people. And what's the public words that we're told by the real estate institutes? Yeah, the auction process is the best sales process for houses. That's what we're told publicly. What are we told privately? When we're at auction school? Auction is the fastest and best conditioning method, agents. And that's a manual from the Real Estate Institute of Australia. You know, people say, you don't believe me? Look at it. Look how it goes. Being nice to sellers about the price they want won't get results. At least 3 letters, 3 office meetings, 10 telephone calls, and it's like stalking, isn't it? And 6 home visits will condition the sellers. And this, which wouldn't apply in New South Wales because this comes from Queensland. I know they're a little rougher in Queensland. And the fellow sent me a legal letter about this and said, look, you know, and I said, look, I'll stop talking about it if you stop doing it. Like, I remember, you know, if you stop telling lies about me, I'll stop telling the truth about you. So anyway, this is what he teaches at the TAFE College about auctions. Auctions, sometimes it's good to give the owner a kick in the guts. Yeah. Mr. Don Power, licensed, very respected, his solicitor reckons. Okay, well, stop saying that, Don. Yeah. The conditioning process must start early. Like we said, it's no good telling them the bad news the day before the auction. And you remember earlier I told you about that fellow Tostovan that calls himself the most successful agent in Australia, the one who says if the company's paying for the cost of the advertising, bump it up. Remember him? Teaches about auctions too because he loves the auctions. I'm not saying that all people who do auctions are rogues. What I am saying is that all the rogues seem to do auctions. Actually, I like that. I haven't said that before, but I like that one. I have to remember that. This is what Mr. Tostovan says. Always tell sellers that offers prior to auction are lower than they actually are. This is what he teaches. Now, he's actually, because he's so successful, he's also quite a good teacher, so he actually spells it out. And he goes on and says, if you get an offer before the auction of $270,000, tell the owners that you've got an offer of $250,000. Okay. Now, let me be clear here. Mr. Tostovan doesn't intend to steal the $20,000. That's not the case at all. What happens is the owner has probably been told that they're going to get $300,000 or $320,000. The offer, the house is probably worth about $280,000, $290,000, maybe $300,000. There's an offer of $270,000. In order to condition the sellers, you tell them $250,000. That's the way it works. I actually say to agents, and one of the things that you've got to try and do with anybody, whether it's your employees or employer or your children, if you want to convince somebody to do something, you've got to show them what's in it for them. And I say to agents, agents, if you stop doing auctions, I'll give you one very good advantage. You'll be able to go shopping in the area that you work. You won't have to worry about seeing your customers in the supermarket aisle and having to do U-turns with your trolley to try and get away from them. People say, I have to be careful. Don't we? It's such an intimidatory world today. Ooh, be careful. We all live in perpetual fear, don't we? Well, sometimes I think, and this next thing comes from a training manual. And the fellow who wrote the training manual, the book, he went on to become the training officer for one of the largest real estate networks. They're a very big real estate network. So rather than give you their names, I'll just give you their initial. It was L.J. Hooker. And people, you see, are nervous at auctions. And this is what he wrote in his manual. Agents, it's your job to wander around and keep them nervous. That's what it is. Well, you're here. Did you bring your checkbook? Hey, looking forward. Everything going to be... Oh, well, we've got a few people come... Your job to keep them nervous. Oh, look, this one hasn't turned up. Oh, I'm not sure what that one's there for. Oh, I don't know if we're going to get the price today. Look, we've only got a couple of seconds. We have to make up your mind. Keep them nervous. Anyway, let's forget all that for a moment, because I think you've all seen that. And I think we all kind of know that that sort of thing goes on. I think we've all seen young men with that... young men in their 20s... chewing the earlobes of elderly folk in their 70s and 80s, and you want to go and grab them by the back of the neck and say, listen, don't you speak to people like that. We've seen that sort of thing going on. But why do people continue to put their homes to auction? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they think it gets them the highest price. They think it gets them a good price. Well, I said there's 3 words to remember. If you just take 3 words away from here, would be don't sign anything. But I'll give you 4 more. Auctions get lower prices. Now watch. These are the things that you are told. $41,000 above reserve. For this vendor, a Ray White auction was definitely the way to go. Okay. Auctions cannot possibly get you the highest price. The best the auctions can get you is the second highest price. They can get you a high price, but there is a difference between the high price and the highest price. There's a difference between a good price and the best price. The reason auctions can only get you ever the second best price is because the auction is based on what the second best bidder was offering. You see, each bidder gets to see what the other bidders are offering. So consequently, instead of paying what they've come along prepared to pay, they only bid one increment above the person below them. Watch this. Let's say that you're one buyer and I'm a buyer. And the most you can pay is $550, and the most I can pay is $500. That's it. Okay? We go to an auction, and the auction starts low. $350, $400, and everybody says, oh, it's going up quickly. Well, of course it's going up quickly, because they started so low. It's like beating me up and saying, well, you'll feel better tomorrow, Neil. Yes, I will, I suppose. And as I start to climb up bloodied and battered from the platform here, see, look, it's better. The beating helped him. The auction goes up. It gets to $480,000. They say, oh, it's on the market. It's going to be sold. So you're bidding $481, $482, and it's going backwards and forwards. Okay? You bid $499. I bid $500. That's it. I cannot pay any more. That's it. What do you bid? $501. The auctioneer says, nobody else? That's fine. Sold to you for $501. Everybody claps, and then it's sold for $21,000 above reserve. They put the ads out, and you go, I'd have paid another $49,000 for that. It happens constantly. And any real estate agent that is doing auctions is either incompetent, which is not a dishonest thing to be incompetent. Lots of people are incompetent. We're all incompetent. There's a bit of Mr. Bean in all of us. I was washing my hands earlier. My tie actually went into the sink, and it was just soaked. I thought, what am I going to do? So I've been dabbing it with... So we're all incompetent at times, aren't we? But any real estate agent who is auctioning homes is either incompetent or dishonest. Watch how it works. And I'll give you some examples. I'll take a property in Maroubra, in Hague Street, Maroubra. The reserve price, $850,000. Now, at every auction there are 3 prices. There is the reserve price, which is the worst case scenario for the seller. That's the lowest the seller is prepared to accept. There's the price the property sold for, which is the second price. And the third price is the price the buyer was prepared to pay. The buyer's highest price. That's the seller's lowest price. What do you think they call the buyer's highest price in real estate? The seller's lowest price is called the reserve. What do you think the buyer's highest price is called? They don't even have a name for it. I told you they didn't study negotiation. So watch this. This property has a reserve price of $850,000. It sells for $1,015,000. Now the other question. What was the buyer prepared to pay? $1.5 million. The sellers lose $485,000 and never know about it. Now I heard, and it was coming from over here, a thought. The thought is, how'd you know? Okay. Well, aside from the fact that I've studied negotiation, I'll tell you how I knew in this particular case. The next door neighbour bought it. And the next door neighbour happened to be the Baptist church. And when the church wants to buy a property, it's not just one person making a decision. They sit down around a committee and work out what's the most they're prepared to pay. So the most they're prepared to pay is $1.5 million. They go to the auction. The reserve's $850,000. It's on the market. The person below them bids $1,010,000. They put their hand up. They don't have to say anything. They put their hand up. The auctioneer goes, and 15. Nobody else is bidding. It gets sold. Can I tell you, even if the church had put its hand up again, the auctioneer would have said, no, sir, I got that bid. They wouldn't have allowed you to pay your highest. And I proved this at a First National charity auction one night for the Kids First thing, because I'd like the Kids First charity. There was a bit of software, and I said to the agents I was sitting with at the table, I'll prove it. I'd like to pay $1,000 for this software. And the agent said, oh, it's only worth about 5 or 6. And I said, but it's for a charity, and I'm going to show you. I'm prepared to pay $1,000. So the auctioneer started the bidding. When it came around to this lot, it went 100, 150, 200. Somebody else, 250. I had it 300, 300, 300 once, 300 twice. I went, no, 400. He said, oh, I've got your bid. I said, no, 400. He said, all right, 400,000, 400,000, any other bids? And I went, 500. He said, Jenman, stop being a smart aleck. I said, 500's my bid. All right, sold to you for 500. Move to the next one. And I said to the agent, you see what happens? Oh, yeah, but you see it on TV, don't you? You see it, so like, look at this. What a fabulous program this was. Hey, and I have to hand it to Mr. Packer. You did well, sir. You are great when it comes to television. But I'll tell you something, I'll match you on real estate. Okay. With knowledge of real estate. 3 million people saw this, and they saw the winners were Fiona and Adam. And the reserve prices, we all knew, were $595, and that was very good and very ethical to actually reveal that. That's fine. Okay? Sold for $751,000. Adam and Fiona were the winners. What was the buyer prepared to pay? $800. Okay. $49,000. Okay. But and then they start taking these ads. They had an unfair advantage. Ray White. No. The buyers had an unfair advantage. Auction, because auction cost them $49,000. Oh dear. I'm not allowed to advertise this sort of stuff, by the way. If I was to put ads in like this, they'd be banned. But let's move along and look at Warren and Gavin. Now they'd have to have been the popular choice. Everybody liked Warren and Gavin. They had a reserve of $595. Their property sold for $670,000 to Crazy John, the mobile phone guy. Okay. And there they are, hugging Crazy John. Arms around each other. Isn't it just so touching? And I'm sure we were all touched at the time, because if we followed the program, all along the way, our emotions and our hearts were there too. But one thing none of us knew was in Crazy John's skyrocket, in his back pocket, Crazy John had another $330,000, because Crazy John was prepared to pay $1 million. So the sellers lost $330,000 and never knew about it. And as somebody pointed out to me the other day, hang on, Neil, they also got $100,000 extra if they were the winners. So they're actually $430,000 down. Yeah. I was down in Warrnambool, and Warrnambool's a nice place. It's down in southern Victoria, and I was down there the other night, where a local councillor had bought a property in Geelong on behalf of somebody. There's a Coogee property. Yeah. Reserve $690, sold $690, buyer's highest price $790, seller loses $100,000. It goes on and on. I actually did a study of a fellow who goes out free of charge helping buyers buy at auctions, by the way. And of the last 14 properties, the average amount that he's purchased them below what his instructions were to pay is $37,250. 14 properties, the total loss to the sellers of $521.5. Somebody says, but Neil, isn't that the market price? I said, is the market price the lowest the seller's prepared to pay or the highest the buyer's... Sorry, the lowest the seller's prepared to accept or the highest the buyer's prepared to pay? Which is the market price? Of course, it is the highest the buyer is prepared to pay. Anyway, this fellow from the Warrnambool Council buys a property in Geelong for $800,000. His highest price was $1.5 million. The sellers lost $700,000 and never knew it. Yeah, but Neil, what about Sotheby's and Christie's? Really? Aren't they so respected? The Sotheby's CEO, or the chairman, I think he got out of jail last month in America. The Christie's chairman, if he sets foot in the United States, will be arrested by the FBI because he's known now as an international fugitive for the scams that they have. Listen, at real estate auctions, dummy bids come from passing cars, birds and telegraph poles, okay? At Sotheby's and Christie's, they come from walls and chandeliers. That's how it works. Okay, well, forget the dummy bidding and all that sort of stuff, because I know, Neil, about a painting that just sold for some huge price at Sotheby's. It was a Rubens, and I know my artwork. Oh, really, do you? Do you mean this painting? This one that sold for 138 million? That's it? Yes. Yes, it sold for 138 million. No painting's ever sold for that much at auction, and Sotheby's hold the record. What was the buyer prepared to pay? 276 million. The sellers lose 138 million. Never know it, although they probably know it by now. And Sotheby's pick up a $16.7 million commission. Now, how would you have got the 276 million? Well, it's really quite simple. You don't let the buyers know what the other ones are offering. You just say, you've got one chance to tell me your best price, and that's it. It's going to be sold. Now, all of you here now know how to sell that Rubens painting. And I'll bet you'd do it, yes, for less than 16.7 million. You'd give them a discount. But you see, at auctions, when you're selling your house at auction, you don't know. It's not something you do every day. Some people only do it once in their lives. And what you've got is you've got people that have worked. I see people. I see them at airports. The baggage lady at the airport the other day, she said, I've got my house going for auction. And I'm thinking, what are you getting an hour? $18? And how much are you going to lose by going to auction? I nearly got arrested trying to stop her. You know? Because she's innocent and she gets financially massacred. And it's a funny thing about this world, how there are clues all around us. What's the name of this painting? This Rubens. What was it called? Well, it's a sign here from somewhere from heaven. It's called The Massacre of the Innocents. Yeah. So, let's say you haven't realised and you haven't figured it out at this stage that auctions actually get lower prices. What you've got is you've got a situation whereby the pressure on you is starting to become intense at the end, and the pressure on them is starting to become intense, agents, and your persistency will win out in the end. Yes. But hang on. What about the other thing that gets the prices up? Come on. Wink, wink. Hey. They've got the new laws out now, and there's no dummy bidding allowed. Hey, you know what the bride said the other day to his agent mates when they were doing the training? He said, I'll just have my dummy bidders register. Well, you see, it doesn't take them long to figure it out, does it? But you remember the headlines when there was a crackdown on dummy bidding? Oh, and this is, what did the real estate industry do? Well, this is what the real estate industry did. In New South Wales, the president of the Real Estate Institute, when dummy bidding first raised its ugly head publicly, he said, you'll like this, he said, I never heard of it. That's what he said. Mr. Hill said he'd not heard about the practice of dummy bidding before. There would be tricks of the trade out there, but I've never heard of dummy bidding. What's he do now, this fella? He's now the president of the Real Estate Institute of Australia. They promoted him for that. Fantastic. What did they say in Victoria? Well, the CEO in Victoria said this. He said, I'm not sure what's meant by dummy bids. The announcer on ABC radio said to him, explained it to him, he said, well, that's someone standing in the crowd pretending to be a real bidder, and they're not. What's his answer to that? Auctions have been around for a long time. Well, yes, so has domestic violence. And it would be more appropriate to compare auctions with domestic violence than it would be to try and say, well, because they've been around for a long time, that makes them respectable. Let me tell you about the dummy bidding thing. How do you have an auction if you only have one buyer? Isn't that cute, huh? We've only got one buyer. How do we have an auction? Well, you don't, do you? You just can't. A dummy bid is to an auction like a spark plug is to an engine. That's what it is. Agents have become so arrogant, and never mind this agent in the bathroom talking to his mates about how he's just going to register his dummy bidders. Agents have been paying dummy bidders to be in the crowd. Some agents got so cocky about it and so arrogant that they actually started to send invoices to the home sellers for the cost of having the dummy bidder in the crowd. No. I've got somebody's nodding here, but most of you go, now I'll show you one from Victoria here. Look at this. Here was the invoice that went to the seller. Auction attendance Ted, $25. Yeah. Auction attendance Peter, $25. Because they're big, their name's Castor and Gilbert, and they're a very big agency, so they do it really well. You need more than one dummy bidder, don't you? And of course, auction attendance Ron, he got $30. He must have made an extra bid, Ron. Oh, you mean vendor bidding? Oh, well, this is just Jenman being dramatic with this dummy bid. Vendor bidding. Why didn't you say so? We change the name of it, won't we? Quick. No, vendor bidding. No, a vendor bid is a legitimate bid made on behalf of the vendor to protect their interests, to stop them selling their property too low. And it's only ever made below the reserve price, so there's no harm done anyway. Time for the news now. That's all you're going to get. Unless you ask another question. Then why don't you just start the bidding at the reserve price? Wouldn't that protect the seller? And you know what they'll say? You're not qualified in this state. You're not this. You've never worked in real estate. I'm the president of the Real Estate Institute. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you why they don't start the bidding at the reserve price. And there's two reasons. One that hurts buyers and one that hurts sellers. The reason they start the bidding below the reserve price is because they've been lying to the buyers about the price the property will sell for. So if they've been saying to the buyers, psst, come along, you might get it for $330, they can't go to the auction and say, well, this is an honest auction, the reserve's $500. So what they do is they start it at $330. It goes $330, $340, $350, and the buyers go, oh, gee, the market, eh? And then when it stops at $470, the pressure goes on the elderly sellers to crunch them and sell it. So the reason they start below the reserve price with the sellers is because they fully intend to sell the property below the reserve price. Look what it says. You shouldn't worry if the reserve seems a little high, because when the bidding slows down, the reserve can be lowered immediately to the amount of the highest bid. This is teaching agents. This is Graham White, the fellow that was the LJ Hooker trainer. And this one. An owner cannot be forced to accept a bid below the reserve price unless they so agree during the auction. Whack, whack, whack. You know, please, please. And I say, if I had a wish, if there was one thing I could have as a wish in the real estate industry, it would be cooling off periods for all consumers. And I'm saying sellers and buyers are both consumers, all people. And do you know what the real estate industry says about auctions? If you had cooling off periods, the auction system couldn't work. Oh, really? If people were happy with the result, why would they want to cool off? Agents start bidding below the reserve price because they intend to make sales below the reserve price. That's the reason. I read a lot of here. I've got a book here called Coercion, which is the persuasion professionals and why we listen to what they say. And on the back of the book it says, buy this book and find out why you bought this book. So I like that. I bought it for that. But here's what he says in Coercion. He says, the better and more sophisticated the manipulation, the less aware of it we are. And what happens is, at auctions, people are numb, their heads are spinning. I have one here from a lady in Wahroonga who said when the figure stopped at $495, we were asked to put the house on the market. we understood the figure of $4.95 was then a price to start negotiating from. But the hammer went down and was sold to the bidder at $4.95. I yelled out, no, that's not right. We can't sell at that price. We were devastated. I cried for the next hour, was physically sick. And if someone had given me a gun, I would have shot myself. I still have nightmares and can burst into tears while writing about this awfully devastating experience. The worst I have ever seen was a farmer buying a dairy farm who was badgered and coerced and bought. And on the way home, he kept saying to his wife, we shouldn't have done it, we shouldn't have done it. And he tried to get out, went to a solicitor, couldn't do it. The agents had promised him they'd sell another farm and he'd be okay. Couldn't sell the other farm, and he was facing ruin. So he read the fine print in the contract. And he saw there was a way he could get out, so he killed himself. And that is a true story. And I know I can say that's over the top, and that is isolated. But nobody could read the statutory declaration from the widow, nor the coroner's report, without saying, why don't consumers in real estate have their basic fundamental rights? And yet the state government gives money to the real estate institutes to spread a message out there to consumers, which in many cases is false and misleading and not in their interests. So what I do is I come here and I show you what gets taught in the Real Estate Institute manuals. And here is one straight out of the Real Estate Institute of Australia manual. Auctions, take control, agents, they are usually numb. Move quickly, don't give them time to dwell on the price. And you know, when I'm standing here now speaking with you, and you're looking at me and I'm looking at you, and we're smiling, we're talking, we're doing whatever, every now and again, somebody might walk out up the back. It hasn't happened here today, but in lots of these talks. And as they're going out the back, I get this finger given to me, right? You don't get to see that because you're looking at me. I get to see that, and I've got to keep smiling. But if this was an auction hall and I was following the rules that agents are taught, no, you wouldn't be able to get out because this is what it says. Auctioneers, remember when signing a client up, make sure you keep an eye on them and always look for possible escape routes. This is what gets taught. And, of course, when it's all over, at the fall of the hammer, the auctioneer should congratulate the purchasers and all sales staff should applaud, and this will result in general applause from the attendees. Yep, you'll see it. The auctioneer is the first one to go. There's another clue. Heaven sent us another clue about auctions. Have a look at this. A-U-C-T-I-O-N. That's how it's spelt. Okay, the warning is in the name. Caution. Caution. Don't sign anything. Sign. Pen. A hammer. Hold on a second. Let's think about something. You remember I told you about intimidation and bluff? The auction system is one huge bluff. A hammer? How on earth can anything be binding on the fall of a hammer? When you go to the motor registry to renew your license, they give you a hammer and tell you to whack it? Of course not. When you go to a restaurant and they give you the invoice in that leather wallet thing, when you open it up, what's in there? A hammer? No, a pen. So, if you are at an auction and you are pressured like that lady from Wahroonga was, and the auctioneer yells out, sold, I'll tell you what to do. Skedaddle. Run. If you're a buyer, hop in the car and go for it, right? The cost of the speeding ticket, the $150, a lot cheaper than getting ripped off. If you are a seller, you run inside, you close the doors, and you call your lawyer. You wait till Monday. I'll give you an idea of how much a bluff it is. You could go out, for those of you who can't afford these $1 million homes, you go out to the eastern suburbs this weekend. You could see houses there. You could see houses there for 3, 4, 5 million. Go on, bid, 7 million. You got to register. Oh, you got to register. Yeah, you got to register. Sure, you got to register. Do you have to show your wallet? No, just your ID. Wouldn't you think you'd have to show your wallet? No, just register, right? 7 million, right? Somebody else goes 7.5. You go, 8 million. Yeah. 8.5, 10 million. They go, sold. You go, nah, forget it. Right? Now, wait. I am joking, and I don't really want you to do that. Except for this. Wait. Except for this. Think about this. If you did that, the person below you would have paid their highest price, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they? The second highest, right? they'd have paid their highest. So if we really wanted to make auctions get the highest price, we'd pass a law saying that at every auction, by law, you must have a dummy bidder and nobody knows who it is. So when it eventually goes sold, it goes to the person below. Right? I don't know. How does all this work?